Good evening, and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientist of New York City. Let's begin with singing hymn number 216. Oh, he who trusts in God's protection and hopes in him when fears alarm is sheltered by his loving kindness, delivered by his mighty arm. If ye God's law can understand, ye have not builded on the sand. Hymn number 216. I'll read from the Bible and the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health, with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. This evening's readings are on confidence and assurance. The Bible, Isaiah. And the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and assurance forever. And my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation, and in sure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. Daniel. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, "There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh." For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is the decree so hasty from the king?" Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee, for thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter." Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, "Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation." Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, "I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation." The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof?" Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, forasmuch as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Forasmuch as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldest reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Psalms. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. Proverbs. In the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. Luke. And a certain centurion's servant, who was dear unto him, was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this, for he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them. And when he was now yet not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee. But say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. And in that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues, and of evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight. 2 Timothy. Continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus. Hebrews, exhort one another daily, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. For we are made partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. And from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The beliefs we commonly entertain about happiness and life afford no scatheless and permanent evidence of either. Security for the claims of harmonious and eternal being is found only in divine science. The evidence of divine mind's healing power and absolute control is to me as certain as the evidence of my own existence. In Hebrew, Greek, Latin, and English, faith and the words corresponding thereto have these two definitions: trustfulness and trustworthiness. One kind of faith trusts one's welfare to others. Another kind of faith understands divine love and how to work out one's own salvation with fear and trembling. Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief, expresses the helplessness of a blind faith, whereas the injunction, believe and thou shalt be saved, demands self-reliant trustworthiness, which includes spiritual understanding and confides all to God. The Hebrew verb to believe means also to be firm or to be constant. This certainly applies to truth and love understood and practiced. Firmness in error will never save from sin, disease, and death. Acquaintance with the original texts and willingness to give up human beliefs established by hierarchies and instigated sometimes by the worst passions of men, open the way for Christian Science to be understood and make the Bible the chart of life where the buoys and healing currents of truth are pointed out. Sometimes it is said, rest assured that whatever effect Christian Scientists may have on the sick comes through rousing within the sick a belief that in the removal of disease, these healers have wonderful power derived from the Holy Ghost. Is it likely that church members have more faith in some Christian Scientist whom they have perhaps never seen and against whom they have been warned than they have in their own accredited and orthodox pastors whom they have seen and have been taught to love and to trust? Let any clergyman try to cure his friends by their faith in him. Will that faith heal them? Yet scientists will take the same cases and cures will follow. Is this because the patients have more faith in the scientists than in their pastor? I have healed infidels whose only objection to this method was that I, as a Christian Scientist, believed in the Holy Spirit, while they, the patients, did not. Our Master cast out devils, evils, and healed the sick. It should be said of his followers also that they cast fear and all evil out of themselves and others and heal the sick. God will heal the sick through man, whenever man is governed by God. Truth casts out error now as surely as it did 19 centuries ago. The confidence inspired by science lies in the fact that truth is real and error is unreal. Error is a coward before truth. Divine science insists that time will prove all this. Both truth and error have come nearer than ever before to the apprehension of mortals, and truth will become still clearer as error is self-destroyed. The scientific fact that man and the universe are evolved from spirit and so are spiritual is as fixed in divine science as is the proof that mortals gain the sense of health only as they lose the sense of sin and disease. Suffering is no less a mental condition than is enjoyment. You cause bodily sufferings and increase them by admitting their reality and continuance as directly as you enhance your joys by believing them to be real and continuous. When an accident happens, you think or exclaim, "I am hurt." Your thought is more powerful than your words, more powerful than the accident itself to make the injury real. Now, reverse the process. Declare that you're not hurt and understand the reason why, and you will find the ensuing good effects to be in exact proportion to your disbelief in physics and your fidelity to divine metaphysics, confidence in God as all, which the scriptures declare him to be. We are Christian Scientists only as we quit our reliance upon that which is false and grasp the true. We are not Christian Scientists until we leave all for Christ. Human opinions are not spiritual. They come from the hearing of the ear, from corporeality, instead of from principle. Moral and spiritual might belong to Spirit, who holds the wind in his fists. And this teaching accords with science and harmony. In science, you can have no power opposed to God, and the physical senses must give up their false testimony. If we look to the body for pleasure, we find pain. For life, we find death. For truth, we find error. For spirit, we find its opposite, matter. Now, reverse this action. Look away from the body into truth and love, the principle of all happiness, harmony, and immortality. Hold thought steadfastly to the enduring, the good, and the true, and you will bring these into your experience proportionably to their occupancy of your thoughts. Our master read mortal mind on a scientific basis, that of the omnipresence of mind. An approximation of this discernment indicates spiritual growth and union with the infinite capacities of the one mind. Jesus could injure no one by his mind reading. The effect of his mind was always to heal and to save. And this is the only genuine science of reading mortal mind. His holy motives and aims were traduced by the sinners of that period, as they would be today if Jesus were personally present. Paul said, "To be spiritually minded is life." We approach God or life in proportion to our spirituality, our fidelity to truth and love, and in that ratio we know all human need and are able to discern the thought of the sick and the sinning for the purpose of healing them. Error of any kind cannot hide from the law of God. To mortal sense, Christian Science seems abstract. But the process is simple, and the results are sure if the science is understood. The tree must be good, which produces good fruit. Guided by divine truth and not guesswork, the theologus, that is, the student, the Christian and scientific expounder of the divine law, treats disease with more certain results than any other healer on the globe. The Christian Scientist should understand and adhere strictly to the rules of divine metaphysics as laid down in this work, and rest his demonstration on this sure basis. Be firm in your understanding that the divine mind governs, and that in science man reflects God's government. When the illusion of sickness or sin tempts you, cling steadfastly to God and his idea. Allow nothing but his likeness to abide in your thought. Let neither fear nor doubt overshadow your clear sense and calm trust that the recognition of life harmonious, as life eternally is, can destroy any painful sense of or belief in that which life is not. Let Christian Science, instead of corporeal sense, support your understanding of being, and this understanding will supplant error with truth, replace mortality with immortality, and silence discord with harmony. He that touches the hem of Christ's robe and masters his mortal beliefs, animality, and hate, rejoices in the proof of healing, in a sweet and certain sense that God is love. Let's pray for the congregation, first silently, and then pray together aloud the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 412. O dreamer, leave thy dreams for joyful waking. O captive, rise and sing, for thou art free. The Christ is here, all dreams of error breaking, unloosing bonds of all captivity. He comes to bless thee on his wings of healing, to banish pain and wipe all tears away. He comes anew to humble hearts, revealing the mounting footsteps of the upward way. Hymn number 412. A warm welcome to you all. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30. Our services are now held online and in person, and all are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes online and in person for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are held each Sunday. At Sunday school, students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of truth. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. Third Church maintains a reading room on the lower level of this building. The reading room provides a quiet place for prayer and study, and all are welcome. Here you may purchase books and recordings on Christian Science. The reading room has the latest issues of the Christian Science Monitor, an award-winning international news weekly available to read or purchase. Reading room hours are Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. Christian Science is practical and it heals. Our meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you're listening by telephone and would like to share a testimony, press star, then number 6. Our technician will be listening for you and will unmute your line. Please speak directly into the microphone of your phone and don't use the speakerphone. That way we can hear more clearly. If you are watching via Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you for your readings. So many aspects to them to respond to, but the thing that really struck me tonight was, where is thy faith? When Jesus was in the boat and the disciples were extremely afraid, I think that was in the lesson 2 or 3 weeks ago, on the JSH website, the reader read that famous phrase of Jesus, "Where is thy faith?" as "Where is thy faith?" And that really kind of alerted me to something, an old article I read years ago that says, it's impossible to be faithless. It's impossible not to trust. It really is a matter of what we're trusting in and what we're having faith in. And we've all had healings in science where the healing seemed to come about due to increased understanding, increased faith, receptivity, etc. And then there are healings where that doesn't seem to be the case. I've had healings where my consciousness was not at all spiritualized, and yet I had healings. 2 of them come to mind that prove that it's truth over error, it's divine principle. Jeffrey Barrett has an article or 2 on being careful not to think that we're the demonstrators. Divine truth is always demonstrating itself, which doesn't mean that we don't have a responsibility to study and to increase understanding. But the understanding is in the allness of God and the omni-action of mind and soul and truth. And there was a healing, and I've spoken of this before, I think, where I had broken my finger during a volleyball game in Montana on the night before I was to leave to come back to New York. And it was an unhappy circumstance for a whole variety of reasons. And I was fairly new in science, had just had class instruction. And I called my teacher from Montana, and she got to work on it. And she worked with me for 3 days, and then she was going into class and said I'd have to find another practitioner. But because the finger hadn't straightened in 3 days, she insisted I get it set. And I kind of resisted, and she had no patience with that whatsoever, because at that time anyway, in Christian Science care facilities, the rule was always the bone is set after 3 days if it's not healed. So I did get it set, and uh, over here at the hospital across from Eighth Church, and it was fine. But they said something was broken off, and they didn't give me dire predictions, but said even surgery wasn't really going to fully fix the finger. So I called a practitioner, and so this made me doubly unhappy. And the circumstance of my life at that time was not particularly happy or spiritual. And so I called a practitioner I had worked with several years prior, and she remembered me, and she assured me that she's had many, many healings of bones, even before setting of the bone. We talked for 5 minutes or something like that, and I hung up the phone, and within 5 minutes, I felt the finger knit back together. There was a definite sensation in that finger where the bone was broken, and it had knit back together. Now, that was not my faith in that practitioner, although I liked that practitioner and trusted in her metaphysics, but it was principle expressing itself, truth expressing itself. Had nothing to do at that moment with my receptivity, which was fairly meager. Many years after that, I realized I didn't know what they were, but I think someone at the gym told me what they were, plantar's warts. So I called the practitioner. I said, I've got, she said, oh dear, well, okay, we'll work on it. And within a week, the skin was absolutely clear. And I questioned her. I said, I don't have any increased understanding. How did this happen? And she said, well, you mustn't question it. You don't know whether or not you've had increased understanding. But the point is that it's truth over error, and truth is dependent only on truth, and error cannot resist truth when truth is applied to it, when truth overwhelms it. So these things came to mind as you were speaking about faith and assurance and principle, etc. And these are really lovely healings to have, because some healings seem to take quite a while and quite a bit of work. But when they're effortless like this, it's a cause for rejoicing. Thanks for your readings.
Thank you.
Thank you for preparing those lovely readings. I had a wonderful opportunity a few weeks ago to spend some time with a practitioner. She had one of her helpers to pick me up at the airport and bring me to her home. The first thing I noticed was there was this lovely gate that surrounded her home. We wondered when we got there how we were going to get in, because no one was around. And finally, we tried the gate, and lo and behold, it was open. So we just walked in. Well, that night I noticed that she didn't lock any of her doors. It was a lovely home, beautiful piece of property. And I questioned her, and she simply said, well, do you believe in the Genesis 1 man or the Genesis 2 man? Well, that gave me some thought to chew on while I was laying in bed. And I thought, she has such a strong belief that man is created in God's perfect and as God's image and likeness, and that there's no way that they would intrude on her property, or cause damage, or cause harm to her or her property. And that belief is a thread that flows through her whole life, that has enabled her to have tremendous testimonies, one right after the other. Well, a few days went by and we got into her car, and again, it was not locked. And when we went to our destination, it was left unlocked. And then she wanted to show me the home of her son, and he was not there. And he says, "Oh, well, we can go in." It was unlocked. And I thought, what an opportunity to have been brought up, understanding, to trusting God with what appears to be such a small thing, but it isn't. It's a huge thing. That it doesn't faze you. You feel totally cared for, protected, and surrounded with love without locking anything. That was a blessing to me to get to witness the life of someone in that simple observation. I am so grateful for the time that I was able to spend with her. And your readings about trust really drew the thoughts of the meaning of what she didn't do, that simple thing, to mind. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your readings on confidence and assurance. There's one thing I've become assured of, and that is that if I turn thought to God and in prayer and seek guidance, that the messages from God will come and will guide me. And I've had examples of that. I apply it primarily in my work and in seeking the right way to handle problems. It's when problems are difficult and the solution is not clear, if I pray and listen and ask for God's guidance, the answers come, and of this I am assured. And that assurance keeps me praying. One thing I appreciate about Christian Science, and which I've learned through a lifetime, is that it's just totally based on God. It's totally based on seeking God and seeking to express God. Sunday school classes used to have, Sunday school teachers used to have a saying, to give the children L, that to assure the child that they were loved, loving, lovable, and lovely. And that to see our fellow man in that way, to give them L, is something that's learned in science. Its foundation is the Genesis 1 man made in God's image and likeness. And that isn't reinforced by physical senses. One has to love good and love God and have faith and listen and look with the expectation of God's manifestation, and one can see it and experience it and express it. I'm very grateful for Christian Science and for the lovely meeting tonight.
Well, thank you for your readings, and what a beautiful setup you have here. What a beautiful feeling this space has. Really, thank you for your readings. All the way through every incident in the Bible, it turned back to those that turned to God. That's where the answer was. It was just that simple. And then you ended the line that God is love. I mean, you ended your whatever you call it, speaking tonight. So I just want to do this justice what I'm going to say, and I don't know what it is exactly, but this church emanates so much love. A few months ago, I called here to ask if I could have a memorial here, which is not necessarily something that happens in memorials, and it wasn't for a Christian Scientist, although there were many Christian Scientists that attended it. And within a very short period of time, Doris said, I think that's a good idea. And then she said she'd bring it to the board, and they thought it was a good idea. And we were reading in the last hymn, Captivity. You know, there's no captivity in love. I mean, everything is love. And that's just the way I saw it. And I don't know whether it is this space, but the event was just permeated with love. So much love for each other, for the opportunity for us to have it here. It was, I guess it wasn't a Christian Science memorial, but then we have memorials in Christian Science, and, you know, I guess that's celebrating life, and that life is an illusion, but nevertheless, some of us that knew the person feel a little bit differently, and for them, maybe it's kind of necessary. I just got so much help from her. Actually, I have to say that it was Dora, because that's who was here. So much acceptance for practically anything I wanted to do. I just can't begin to tell you how beautiful it was. And unfortunately, I have to give a lot of credit to this space. It's just, and it's so non-religious with symbols and things like that. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful and awe-inspiring, and it's so helped the event. And I can't tell you how many people have called me since that and asked me about Christian Science. And it's actually based on a 12-step program. And I had 2 people at the event come over to me and say that their practice of the 12 steps and self-examination has brought them to Christian Science. Both of them were reading the book, and one of them had joined a church where he lives, I don't know, in Brooklyn, I think. Anyway, I can't go on because there's so much more, and it was so meaningful to me as a Christian Scientist belonging to another church that somebody was willing to do that, and that it was so successful. And I just want to tell you all who were on the board and had anything to do with it, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for your presence, your remarks, your testimonies, and your prayers. Let's close the meeting by singing hymn number 293. Rock of ages, truth divine, be thy strength forever mine. Let me rest secure on thee, safe above life's raging sea. Rock of ages, truth divine, be thy strength forever mine. Number 293.